Before we begin, I want you to think of a song. Not just any song, but the song you play when you're feeling down or when you want to relive memories. And I want you to ask yourself, why does that song change you? How does something completely or nearly shift your thoughts, moods, and emotions in all of what? 3 minutes? I don't imagine that we all have the same song that evokes the same emotions, but I'd like to play mine for you via Music Box. It's pretty quiet, so listen closely. For those of you that don't recognize it, that was Yellow Submarine by the Beatles. This song makes me feel comfort and warmth and nostalgia. And that's because it's one of the songs that I remember in my childhood and wanting to listen to over and over till I could sing along. That and the Gummy Bear song, but I didn't think that'd be fitting for today. I want to ask you guys, what is your song? If anyone wants to shout it out. Anyone willing? Okay. Anyone else?
Lacrimosa by Evanescence.
Okay.
Ella Fitzgerald.
Okay.
Anything.
Ella Fitzgerald.
It's incredible what music can evoke out of us. It's one of the most subtle coping mechanisms that we have. Hence the reason why we've revolutionized it to music therapy. Which button is it? There we go. My name's Avery Colclough, and my question is, how does music therapy impact the emotional and cognitive function of those with depression and schizophrenia? Before I say anything about music therapy, I want to clarify that it is not a treatment that can be used by itself. Rather, it's more of an adjunct treatment to traditional therapies like medication. Music is a great aid to it, however. There's perhaps some stigma around mental illness. We often talk about mental illness in terms of weakness or personality, but depression and schizophrenia are not character flaws, they are brain-based disorders. Mental health disorders like depression and schizophrenia affect hundreds of millions of people worldwide. Depression impacts mood, motivation, and the ability to feel pleasure. It's associated with reduced dopamine-genic activity within reward circuits, contributing to anhedonia, apathy, diminished motivation, and cognitive slowing. Schizophrenia affects perception, thinking, and emotional expression. Schizophrenia has long been linked to dopamine-genic dysregulation, particularly hyperactivity within the mesolimbic pathway, which contributes to positive symptoms such as hallucinations and delusions, alongside profound cognitive impairment and negative symptoms, along with emotional flattening and social withdrawal. Medication has helped a lot. It reduces extreme symptoms like hallucinations or suicidal thoughts. But here's the problem. It doesn't fix everything. Many people are still left with emotional numbness, lack of motivation, cognitive deficits, and social withdrawal. A 2026 clinical study done at the Government Medical College in Kashmir found that 60% of patients with depression experience emotional numbness and continue to struggle with motivation, thinking, and social engagement, even after treatment. Similarly, a meta-analysis of schizophrenia shows that up to 40% of patients continue to experience emotional numbness, lack of motivation, and social withdrawal. In fact, more than half of patients treated still experience these negative symptoms, revealing how persistent and difficult they can be to treat. So the question becomes, what can reach the parts that medication cannot? And that's where music therapy comes in. It's non-invasive, accessible, and works alongside traditional treatment. It includes listening to music, playing instruments, writing songs, or even just moving to the rhythm. Music therapy isn't a new age trend. It's been commonly used since the mid-20th century and is now integrated into hospitals, psychiatric facilities, and rehabilitation centers. But what fascinated me most wasn't just that music helps people feel better. It's what it does in the brain. These two images are brain scans, and they show that music increases activity across many areas of the brain, with warmer colors indicating higher engagement. When we listen to music, it activates systems involved in emotion, memory, and movement, and reward systems in the brain, all at once. This is why the brain appears much more lit up compared to when there's no music or silence. Music can activate key regions of the brain up to 20%. When we listen to music, we don't just use one small area of the brain. We activate distributed neural networks across both hemispheres. The left hemisphere is involved with decoding rhythmic and sequential patterns similar to language processing, while the right is involved with melody, harmony, and the emotional contour of the sound. This bilateral processing reflects music's ability to integrate cognitive structure and emotional experience, producing analytical understanding and affective resonance. This is called whole brain processing, and that's rare. Most things like language or math only use certain areas, but music, it connects everything. A person with depression who regularly engages in music therapy can gradually strengthen neural pathways involved in reward and emotion, making it easier to regulate mood and experience pleasure. Similarly, individuals with schizophrenia who participate in structured musical activities like drumming or guided listening can reinforce neural circuits related to attention and cognitive organization. While we don't know the timescale at which brain plasticity occurs, which is the brain's ability to rewire itself, like synapses modifying at merely seconds or minutes, or the growth of new synapses and dendrites may require hours to days. But gray matter increases and white matter dissipates. The higher the gray matter, the higher the cognitive functioning. Think about when you listen to music. You're not just hearing it, you're remembering, feeling, predicting, and reacting. Everyone has their sentimental song, like Yellow Submarine. Studies show that different forms of music are not interchangeable in therapy. Instead, each type carries distinct qualities that influence how a person emotionally and physically respond. For example, a study researching to understand effectiveness of different types of music to cope with stress found that listening to self-selected music or classical music after exposure to a stressor significantly reduces negative emotional states and psychological arousal compared to listening to heavy metal music or sitting in silence. So we have research that shows that music activates emotional, cognitive, and sensory systems, along with strengthening neural pathways, and that it encourages neuroplasticity, which again is the brain's ability to rewire itself. This is huge for disorders like depression and schizophrenia, because those disorders disrupt brain communication. As you can see, these are some results of a study of group music therapy with significant results. The p-value, 0.001, means there's a 0.1% chance that this result happened randomly, so it's very significant or reliable. The f-value comes from a statistical test called ANOVA. So the bigger the f, the bigger the difference between before and after music therapy. So the 24.04 is a very large effect, meaning big improvement. Essentially, music doesn't just treat symptoms, it helps rebuild the system itself. Now let's talk about something even more powerful, pleasure. In depression, the brain struggles to feel reward. Things that used to feel good don't anymore. Neuroimaging studies show that pleasurable music triggers dopamine release across the mesolimbic pathway. This same reward circuitry activated by food, connection, and natural reinforcers. These fMRI scans show that there has been increased activity in the BTA and the nucleus accumbens when listening to music, which are key parts of the brain's reward system. Because this pathway is responsible for releasing dopamine, the activation indicates that music triggers dopamine release. This is what creates feeling of motivation and pleasure when we listen to music. In another study, just after 13 music therapy sessions, patients showed increased calmness and improved emotional states. Imagine not being able to feel joy, and then slowly through music, feeling something again. Music therapy helps people feel again, want again, and engage in life again. Here's something really important. Not all music works the same. Calm, structured music reduces stress, and intense, chaotic music may increase anxiety. But the most effective music is often self-selected. That song that you thought of at the beginning, that matters. because your brain responds differently to music that is meaningful to you. Music therapy is not one size fits all. It's personal, and that's what makes it powerful. Music doesn't just affect individuals, it connects people. Music functions as an inherently social medium that fosters connection and reduces loneliness and isolation commonly experienced by individuals with depression and schizophrenia. Music builds social bonds, releases endorphins, and encourages synchronization. An Oxford study found that people making music together naturally synchronize their movements and rhythms, which increases feelings of social closeness. This research shows that the synchrony can trigger the release of endorphins, a brain chemical linked to pleasure and bonding, making group music a powerful way for humans to connect socially. For someone with depression or schizophrenia, who may struggle with traditional forms of interaction, talking can be hard, connection can feel impossible. Music provides an alternative, nonverbal means of engagement. It brings people together, but it also cultivates meaningful social bonds, ultimately diminishing feelings of isolation and promoting a greater sense of connections among individuals with mental illness. Music becomes a language, a bridge, and a way back to others. So what does all of this mean? Music therapy activates the whole brain, restores reward systems, reduces negative symptoms, and creates connection. But we're still learning. Most research focuses on short-term effects. We need more long-term studies. However, it can be assumed that music therapy will still be effective and not cause any harmful side effects. And although we know that music preference plays a crucial role in brain activation, more research should be done to better understand its influence. And finally, we need larger sample sizes. After scouring a plethora of research, papers, and books, I've yet to come across a study that has a considerably large sample size, which could skew results. So what should we do differently? We should expand access in schools, clinics, and community programs. We need to start using music intentionally, not passively. And we also need to recognize it as a legitimate adjunct to treatment, not just background noise. And here's where I want to leave you all. Music is not just entertainment. It's neurological, emotional, and human. So next time you press play, ask yourself, what is this doing to me? Because music isn't just something that we listen to, it's something that rewires us. Thank you.